AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she's treating my kids? This has been eating me up for weeks, and I honestly don't know if I'm the asshole here or if I'm justified. I'm going to try to explain everything as clearly as I can. A bit of background. I'm a 36-year-old mom of 2 kids, ages 7 and 4. My sister, Jessica, is 34 and getting married in about 2 months. We grew up pretty close, but as we got older, especially after I had kids, things started to get complicated between us. Jessica's fiancé, Mark, is a decent guy, and I like him well enough, but they have this very particular vibe about adult-only stuff. They're very traditional, super into fancy dinners, no kids allowed at their events kind of people. I get that weddings are special, but it's also their celebration, and they get to decide the rules. That part isn't the issue. The issue started when Jessica announced the guest list. She told me the kids are not allowed at the wedding or the reception. Fair enough, I thought. I can manage a babysitter for the evening. But when I brought up that my kids would need a place to stay or someone to look after them during the wedding weekend, that's when things got ugly. Jessica and Mark made it clear that they don't want the kids anywhere near their wedding weekend. Not the rehearsal dinner, not the ceremony, not the reception, not the after party. I accepted that, assuming I could arrange childcare. Then Jessica asked if my kids could be watched by family friends that live in town but aren't invited to the wedding. I said it could be arranged, but that I preferred if a family member could watch them so they feel comfortable. She rolled her eyes and said, "We don't want them around the house or involved in any of the wedding prep." Okay, weird but fine. I asked my parents, our mom and dad, if they could watch the kids for the weekend. They agreed, but then Jessica said, "Mom and Dad are helping with the wedding and won't have time for babysitting." That was true. My parents were busy helping out. So I asked if there was a room at the hotel we're staying at where my kids could stay with a professional babysitter or nanny for the weekend. Jessica said no. The hotel blocks are for guests only, and your kids aren't guests. I was starting to feel really frustrated and a bit hurt. I get that Jessica wants a child-free wedding, but my kids are a huge part of my life, and it felt like they were being completely erased. A few days after that conversation, I overheard a phone call between Jessica and Mark. She was talking about how having my kids there would ruin the vibe, and how she didn't want to deal with any child-related drama at the wedding. I know overhearing isn't ideal, but it really hurt. At this point, I tried to talk to Jessica about all of this. I told her I respected her wishes, but that I felt like my kids were being excluded in a way that felt personal, almost like she doesn't want them to be part of her life anymore. She snapped back that this isn't about personal feelings. It's about having a perfect wedding day. Fast forward a couple of weeks, and Jessica sent out a family group text with all of us, my parents, me, and the extended family, reminding everyone of the wedding rules again. She also added a line specifically about not bringing kids to the rehearsal dinner or the reception. That's when I replied, saying, "I won't be attending the wedding or the events if my kids aren't welcome at all. I'm not leaving them out or behind, just so you can have a perfect vibe. They're a part of my life and my family too." Jessica responded saying I was being dramatic and this wedding is about her and Mark, not my kids. She also accused me of trying to make her wedding about myself and my children. I haven't replied since. My parents are caught in the middle and haven't said much, but I can tell they're disappointed with how Jessica is handling this. So now I'm stuck. I don't want to miss my sister's wedding. I want to celebrate her and her future with Mark, but I also can't leave my kids out or behind like this. I try to be reasonable and work around her rules, but it feels like she's completely shut down any options. Am I the asshole for refusing to attend the wedding because of how Jessica and Mark are treating my kids? Or should I just suck it up and go, leaving my kids out of it? Thanks for reading. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her kids to my wedding, even though everyone else thought I was being unreasonable. I, 29F, have been with my fiancé, Mark, 31M, for about 5 years now. We're finally getting married next summer after a long engagement due to saving up and planning the perfect day. It's been mostly smooth sailing, but one issue has come up that's been causing a lot of tension within my family, especially with my sister, 32F. To give some background, my sister has 3 kids, ages 2, 4, and 6. They're adorable, but also very high energy and not well behaved in public. Over the years, she's often relied on me to babysit them, and I'm usually happy to help out, but it's always a challenge. The kids are very loud and tend to run around, and it's exhausting. My sister is a single mom, so I get that it's hard for her to manage sometimes. But the problem is that she rarely disciplines them or controls them in public settings. She lets them act out and then expects everyone else to deal with it. When Mark and I started planning our wedding, we knew we wanted a mostly adult-only event, with a few children allowed, but on a case-by-case basis. We planned a beautiful venue that isn't really kid-friendly. It's a fancy, historic estate with lots of breakable antiques, formal dinner settings, and limited space for running around. We made it clear on the invitations that the event would be mostly adults, and children under 10 would only be welcome if the parents could ensure they were supervised and well-behaved. When my sister heard this, she immediately assumed her kids would be welcome. I told her honestly that we couldn't have all 3 of her kids there, not because I didn't love them, but because we didn't have the capacity to manage 3 high-energy kids at a formal wedding. Plus, the venue and the vibe just weren't suitable. I suggested she pick one child if she wanted to bring anyone or find childcare for the others. I also offered to help pay for a babysitter for the day to relieve some of the financial burden on her. She didn't like this. She got really upset and told me I was being unfair and cruel for excluding her children. She argued that it was my wedding and I should just let the kids be kids. She said Mark's family has plenty of kids at their weddings and it works out fine. I pointed out that Mark's family's weddings are casual backyard barbecues, not formal affairs with expensive decor. My parents also chimed in and sided with my sister. They told me I was being too rigid and should just relax and let the kids have fun. They said my sister is a single mom and I should be more understanding and accommodating. Mark and I stood our ground because the wedding is a big deal to us and we want everyone to enjoy it without chaos. The situation escalated when my sister started posting on social media about how I was cutting her kids out of our family event and that I was prioritizing stuff over family. Some extended family members started messaging me privately, asking if I was really going to make my sister leave her kids behind. A few said I was being petty and selfish. I am honestly torn. I want my sister and her kids there, but I also want a wedding that feels special and controlled, not like a circus. I'm worried that if I cave and let her bring all 3 kids, they'll run wild and disrupt the ceremony and reception. We have a limited budget and can't hire extra childcare or entertainment. My fiancé supports me and agrees that we should set clear boundaries for our wedding day. My sister threatened that if she can't bring all her kids, she won't come at all, and that she's hurt and disappointed by me. My parents are also pressuring me to compromise. I feel like I'm being made out to be the villain in this situation. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring all her kids to my wedding, even though it means she might not attend? Or should I just let her bring them all and try to manage the chaos? I want to do what's right, but I also want my wedding day to be what Mark and I envisioned. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her emotional support animal to my wedding, even though she claims it's essential for her mental health. This whole situation has been a nightmare, and honestly, I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong here, so I wanted to get some perspective. A bit of background. I, 29F, am getting married in a few months. It's a pretty big deal for me. My fiancé and I have been together for 6 years, and after finally saving up and finding the perfect venue, we're planning what we hope will be a really special day surrounded by family and friends. My sister, let's call her Emma, 27F, has struggled with anxiety and depression for several years. She's been very open about her mental health issues, and I support her as best as I can. A year ago, she got approved for an emotional support animal, ESA, a small dog named Max. From what I understand, Max really helps her get through tough days. Emma lives on her own and says that Max is a huge part of her daily coping. When I started inviting guests, Emma told me early on that she'd be bringing Max with her to the wedding. She said she needs him to manage her anxiety in a large social setting. At first, I wasn't sure how to handle it, but I try to be understanding. After all, I want my sister to be comfortable. The venue we booked is a historic building with strict policies about animals on the premises, except for service animals, which are legally permitted. Emotional support animals, however, are not granted the same rights under the law and are often not allowed in public spaces like restaurants, hotels, and venues. I explained this to Emma, telling her that Max probably wouldn't be allowed inside, and if he was, it would need to be cleared with the venue management. She got upset, saying that Max is just as important as a service animal for her mental health, and that I'm being unreasonable for putting the venue's rules over her well-being. She insisted that the venue should make an exception. I reached out to the venue, and they confirmed that while they're sympathetic, they cannot legally allow ESAs inside. They only permit service animals with proper documentation and training. I relayed this to Emma, and that's when things escalated. Emma told me she wouldn't attend the wedding if Max couldn't come. She claimed that attending such a big social event without her dog would cause her a major anxiety attack. I tried to negotiate. Could she have someone else watch Max? Could Max stay in a quiet room outside the main event? Could we arrange breaks so she could step outside? But Emma was firm that Max needed to be with her the entire time. I felt stuck. The wedding venue is small and packed, and having an animal there without permission would be a big risk. It could get kicked out, or worse, the whole wedding could be shut down. I can't risk losing the venue or upsetting other guests who may have allergies or fears about dogs. I also started getting pushback from other family members. Some think I'm being heartless and not accommodating my sister's needs. Others say that Emma is being unreasonable for demanding a rule change at the last minute and threatening to boycott the wedding. It's turned into a huge family debate. I finally told Emma that I can't let Max come, and if she chooses not to attend, that's her choice. She's furious and says I'm prioritizing the wedding over her mental health and that I'm punishing her for having anxiety. Part of me feels guilty because I want my sister there, but another part thinks I'm just trying to hold to the rules and make sure the day goes smoothly for everyone. I've tried to be supportive, but also have to be practical. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her emotional support animal to my wedding, even though she says it's vital for her mental health? Or is she being unreasonable by threatening not to attend over a dog that can't be accommodated? AITA for telling my sister she can't bring her new boyfriend to our family wedding after finding out about his past? My 29F family is pretty tight-knit and traditional. Growing up, my parents always emphasized the importance of family gatherings, celebrations, and sticking together through everything. So when I got engaged last year, I knew my wedding was going to be a big deal, not just for me, but for the entire family. My fiancé, Mark, 31M, and I have been together for 3 years. He's kind, respectful, and my family loves him. We've planned the wedding to be a formal event with about 150 guests, mostly family and close friends. It's set for next spring, and I'm beyond excited. Now, here's where the problem begins. My sister, Emily, 26F, has had a somewhat complicated love life. She's dated a few people over the years, some short-term, some longer, but nothing serious. She recently started dating a guy named Jason. At first, I didn't pay much attention because Emily hadn't introduced him to anyone yet. But about 2 months ago, she announced she wanted to bring him to the wedding. I said that would be fine if things stayed steady, and we had time to get to know him because, weddings are important and people want to celebrate with people they know. She agreed and seemed okay with it. A couple of weeks ago, I was scrolling through social media when I stumbled upon something that made my heart drop. Jason, Emily's boyfriend, was mentioned in a local news article from 2 years ago. The headline was about his arrest for domestic violence against a previous girlfriend. I was stunned. The article detailed that he had been charged, but eventually pleaded down to a lesser offense, and the case was settled out of court with some counseling mandated. It wasn't something I could just ignore. I didn't want to confront Emily without proof. So I dug a bit more and found a few online discussions and some posts for friends of the victim that confirmed Jason's past behavior. I felt awful, but also responsible. My first thought was the safety and comfort of my family and guests at the wedding, especially my mom and younger cousins. I told Emily I needed to talk to her privately. When we met, I carefully told her what I had found. She immediately got defensive, saying Jason has changed, that he's been going to therapy, and that she believes in second chances. She accused me of judging him unfairly based on his past, and said she felt like I was trying to control her life. I explained my concerns. The wedding is a family event, and I don't want to invite someone with a history of violence without warning or discussion with other family members. I also pointed out that it's not about not trusting her judgment, but about protecting everyone's safety and well-being. I suggested maybe Jason could come to a smaller family gathering first, so everyone could meet him and see who he really is. Emily said that wasn't acceptable and insisted Jason would be attending the wedding because she's serious about him. She also said if I didn't allow it, she might reconsider whether she even wanted to be part of the wedding at all. I was devastated. I don't want to lose my sister, but I can't just pretend this didn't come up. I talked to my fiancé and a few close family members about it. Some agreed with me, saying the wedding should be a safe space. Others think I'm overreacting and that people deserve second chances. I told Emily firmly that if Jason comes, I will have to ask him to leave if any signs of trouble appear. She accused me of being controlling and unforgiving, and since then, she's been giving me the cold shoulder and posting passive-aggressive comments on social media. I'm feeling torn because I love my sister, but I also have a responsibility to my guests and the overall atmosphere of the wedding. I don't want a repeat of something awful happening in what's supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life. AITA for not wanting to let my sister bring her boyfriend to our family wedding after finding out about his violent past. AITA for refusing to let my sister and her kids move into my house after she temporarily lost hers, even though I have enough space. So I, 33F, bought my first house last year. It's a modest 4-bedroom place in a quiet neighborhood, and honestly, it's the first thing in my life that feels like mine. I grew up in a chaotic family, single mom, 3 kids, constant financial struggles. My older sister, Katie, 36F, has always been the golden child, though. She was the first to have kids, the one who needed help more, and I got used to being the one who gave things up. When Katie had her first baby at 19, she moved back in with our mom, and I ended up working full-time at 17 to help cover bills. When Mom got sick, I was the one who handled her medical stuff while Katie couldn't take time off work. When Mom passed away, Katie got most of her things because you're younger, you'll build your own. I always told myself it was fine, that family helps each other. But I also promised myself that once I finally got stable, I'd stop being the backup plan. Fast forward to now. I worked 2 jobs for years, paid off my debt, and finally got my house. I was so proud. It's not huge, but it's perfect for me and my dog, Bailey. One room is my office since I work remotely. Another is a guest room, and the last one I've been slowly turning into a little art studio. 3 months ago, Katie called me in tears. Her husband, Tom, 38M, lost his job, they fell behind on mortgage payments, and the bank foreclosed. She said they needed a place to crash for a few weeks until they found a rental. That's her, Tom, and their 2 kids, 8F and 5M. I hesitated but said okay. 2 weeks. I cleared out the guest room for them, moved my art supplies into boxes, and tried to make them comfortable. The first week was fine. The kids were loud, but whatever, I expected that. Then Tom started smoking on the porch, even though I asked him not to because of my dog's asthma. Katie rolled her eyes and said, "It's outside. What's the big deal?" They left dirty dishes in the sink, used my expensive shampoo, and let the kids draw on my walls with markers. They're washable. Spoiler, they weren't. 2 weeks came and went. When I asked about their plans, Katie brushed it off. "We're looking, but it's so hard right now." Another week passed, and I started feeling like a stranger in my own home. Tom took over my office because he needed space to job hunt, and Katie started rearranging my kitchen to make it more functional. After 6 weeks, I told her we needed to talk. I explained that I love them, but I couldn't keep doing this. They needed to move out. She looked shocked and said, "You're seriously kicking out your family?" "We're trying our best." I offered to help them find a place, even to pay their first month's rent if needed, but she said I was being selfish. That night, I overheard her on the phone with our aunt saying, She's always thought she's better than us. Must be nice being child-free and stingy. That hurt. Things got worse when I found out they weren't even actively looking for a rental. Tom had turned down 2 job offers because he was waiting for something better. Meanwhile, my grocery bill doubled, my utilities tripled, and I couldn't even paint in my own art room because the kids turned it into a play area. So I finally told them they had 1 more week. Katie exploded, said I was heartless, that I knew how hard life was for families, and that I was choosing a house over people. She even tried to guilt-trip me, saying Mom would be ashamed of me for not helping my sister at her time of need. I stood firm. I told her Mom spent her whole life helping everyone but herself, and I wasn't going to repeat that cycle. I said I'd rather have my peace and stability than live resentful in my own home. Katie packed up that weekend, but not quietly. She told the kids, Annie doesn't want us here anymore because she's tired of us. The look her daughter gave me broke my heart, but I didn't back down. After they left, my phone blew up. My aunt called me selfish. My cousin texted saying, "You could have helped a little longer." Even my brother, who I'm close with, said I maybe could have given them another month just to keep the peace. But I don't think they understand how bad it got. I wasn't sleeping. My house was trashed. I was paying for groceries I didn't eat and constantly cleaning up after everyone. When I tried to talk about boundaries, I was told I was uptight and lucky to have family. A few days after they moved out, Katie posted on Facebook about finding out blood doesn't mean loyalty. Her friends left comments like, "You're better off without toxic people." Some of our extended relatives saw it and messaged me asking what happened. When I explained, a few said they'd have done the same, but most said family is family. The part that's eating at me is the kids. I adore them. They didn't ask for any of this. I feel like I let them down. But at the same time, I can't parent or house them indefinitely just because my sister refuses to take responsibility. Now, Katie won't speak to me unless I apologize. She says they're living in a small apartment because of my cruelty and that she'll never forget how I abandoned her when she needed me most. My brother says she'll cool off eventually, but I'm not sure. Part of me wonders if I really was too harsh. Maybe I should have waited until they had something lined up. But the other part of me remembers how miserable I felt in my own home, how it stopped feeling like mine the minute I started walking on eggshells in it. I still sometimes wake up expecting to hear the kids yelling downstairs. My dog even gets excited when he hears children outside because he thinks they're back. But then I remember how relieved I was that first night they were gone. How quiet it was, how clean. I sat on my couch, lit a candle, and just cried. Not from guilt, but from finally feeling free again. Still, I can't shake that little voice saying maybe I should have been more patient. Maybe I should have helped a few more weeks. Maybe being right doesn't mean I wasn't in a hole. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister and her family keep living with me, even though they had nowhere else to go. AITA for refusing to babysit my sister's kids after she accused me of trying to replace her as their mom. I, 29F, have always had a complicated relationship with my older sister, Laura, 33F. We weren't exactly close growing up. She was the popular one, the pretty one, the one who always seemed to get our parents' attention. I was quieter, more academic, and definitely more of the weird kid. Despite that, I always looked up to her. She could command a room with her laugh, and even when she teased me, I wanted her approval more than anything. About 4 years ago, Laura had twins, Max and Emma. Their dad, Ben, is a decent guy, laid back, friendly, and honestly seems exhausted 90% of the time. From the beginning, it was clear that Laura struggled with motherhood. She loves her kids, don't get me wrong, but she's never been the type to enjoy the chaos that comes with small children. She missed her social life, complained constantly about losing her freedom, and used to call me crying about how she wasn't cut out for this. I don't have kids, but I love my niece and nephew. When they were babies, I drive over after work just to help out, feeding them, changing diapers, rocking them to sleep so Laura could nap. She'd always thank me, saying, "You're a lifesaver. I couldn't do this without you." That made me feel appreciated and useful. As the twins got older, I became their go-to person. I'd take them to the park, to museums, to my apartment for sleepovers so Laura and Ben could have time to themselves. My parents joked that I was the fun aunt, but truthfully, I started to feel more like a third parent. I knew their routines, their favorite snacks, what helped them calm down when they had tantrums. Then things shifted. Earlier this year, Laura started working full-time again. She asked if I could watch the twins 2 afternoons a week until she and Ben got home. I agreed, though I warned her I might need to cut back because of my own job. Still, I managed for months. But gradually, it turned into 4 days a week. Then weekends. Then, can you just keep them overnight? We're exhausted. I didn't mind helping until Laura started getting snappy with me. She'd criticize the food I gave them, too much sugar, the TV shows I let them watch. You're spoiling them with screen time. Even the way I talk to them, you need to stop babying them. It felt like nothing I did was right. The breaking point came 2 weeks ago. It was Emma's school performance day. Laura had to work late, so she asked me to take Emma to the event. Emma was so excited. She'd been practicing her lines for weeks. I took pictures, sent videos to the family group chat, and afterwards, I treated both kids to ice cream to celebrate. The next morning, I woke up to a long text from Laura that said, "I'm seriously uncomfortable with how much you're inserting yourself into my kids' lives. You're acting like you're their mom. You went to her performance and didn't even wait for me. You're confusing them and crossing boundaries." I was stunned. I called her immediately, and she answered already furious. She accused me of trying to replace her and making her look bad as a parent. I reminded her that she asked me to take Emma because she couldn't be there. She said, "We didn't have to go all out. You could have just taken her and left quietly. Posting photos makes it look like you're the one raising them." I told her she was being unfair and that if she wanted me to stop helping, fine, I'd stop. She said, "Maybe that's for the best." Then she hung up. I didn't hear from her for almost a week. Then Ben texted, asking if I could watch the kids that Saturday because they had a wedding to attend. Irapa? Say, no. Laura said she's uncomfortable with me being involved. He just sent back a sad face emoji and said, "Okay, I understand." A few days later, my mom called to tell me Laura was upset that I refused to help. Apparently, the kids had been asking for me, and Laura told them I was too busy now. My mom said, "You know how your sister gets. Maybe just go over and make peace." She's stressed. I said I'd think about it, but honestly, I'm angry. I've spent years helping raise those kids, missing out on weekends, rearranging my life for their schedules. And now, suddenly I'm being treated like some creepy, over-involved aunt who doesn't know her place. Last night, Laura called again. She sounded tired and tried to act casual. She said, "Hey, can you pick the twins up from daycare tomorrow? Ben's got a meeting." I said, "I thought you didn't want me involved." She sighed and said, "Can we just move past that? I need help." I told her, "No, I can't keep jumping in when it's convenient for you. Either I'm a trusted part of their lives, or I'm not." She snapped back, "You're being selfish. I'm their mother. You're supposed to support me, not punish me." Now my parents think I'm taking things too personally and that I should be the bigger person. My dad even said, "Family is family. You don't keep score." But I can't shake how hurtful it was for her to accuse me of trying to replace her when all I ever did was step up when she didn't want to. I love my niece and nephew more than anything, but I don't want to keep getting burned by my sister's moods. Still, the guilt is eating at me. The kids keep asking when they'll see me, and I feel awful ignoring their calls, but I also don't want to be dragged back into the same cycle. So now I'm wondering if I overreacted. Should I have just brushed it off and gone back to helping for the kids' sake? Or am I right to draw the line after being accused of something so awful? AITA for refusing to babysit my sister's kids after she accused me of trying to replace her. AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in after she ruined my wedding. So for context, I, 29F, got married 3 months ago to my now husband, Ethan, 31M. We've been together for 6 years, and our wedding was something we'd been planning carefully for over a year. My family isn't wealthy, and neither is his, so we paid for almost everything ourselves, cutting corners where we could, but still trying to make the day feel special. I have one sister, Lily, 26F. We've always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child, always getting away with things, always being forgiven no matter how badly she messed up. I was the responsible one. When our parents divorced, I basically helped raise her while our mom worked double shifts. I love her, but she's impulsive, dramatic, and seems to thrive on chaos. Last year, Lily moved in with me and Ethan after she lost her apartment. She promised it would only be for a few months while she got back on her feet. We didn't charge her rent, just asked that she help with groceries and clean up after herself. Within a month, the situation had become unbearable. She'd stay out all night, come home drunk, use my stuff without asking, and constantly borrowed money she never paid back. She once borrowed my laptop for a weekend trip and came back with a cracked screen, acting like it was no big deal. Ethan wanted to ask her to leave months before the wedding, but I kept saying we should wait until after. It felt cruel to kick her out when she didn't have anywhere else to go. I regret that now. When it came to the wedding, Lily begged me to let her be a bridesmaid. I was hesitant because I didn't trust her not to make it about herself, but my mom guilt-tripped me, saying it would mean so much to her. So I agreed, and I even helped pay for her dress because she couldn't afford it. A few days before the wedding, she showed up late to the rehearsal, smelling like alcohol and wearing sunglasses inside. She kept interrupting the coordinator, making jokes, and filming TikToks during the run-through. Ethan told me he had a bad feeling. I brushed it off, thinking she'd get it together for the big day. On the wedding day itself, everything started fine. The ceremony was outdoors, and the weather was perfect. I was honestly the happiest I'd ever been, until Lily showed up to the bridal suite with a bright red face and watery eyes. She said she'd had a little champagne to calm her nerves, but it was obvious she was already drunk. My maid of honor took her aside and told her to get herself together. During the ceremony, she stumbled a bit walking down the aisle, but recovered quickly. I thought that would be the worst of it. It wasn't. At the reception, things started unraveling fast. She made a toast that was supposed to be short and sweet. Instead, she launched into a rambling, slurred speech about how love isn't always perfect, and sometimes you settle for the person who can stand your crazy. Then she mentioned Ethan's ex by name, something about how, at least this time, it's permanent. Everyone went dead silent. I was mortified, but it got worse. Later that night, I couldn't find her. A groomsman came to tell me he'd caught her outside the venue trying to smoke weed with one of Ethan's cousins. I was already furious, but I told myself it was my wedding day, and I wasn't going to let her ruin it. Then came the real blow. While Ethan and I were doing our first dance, someone started playing a different song over the speakers, a loud, explicit rap track that completely cut off our song mid-dance. I looked over and saw Lily at the DJ booth laughing hysterically, waving her phone around. The DJ was shouting at her to stop. She apparently wanted to lighten the mood and thought it would be funny. Ethan was furious. He told the coordinator to have her removed from the venue. Security escorted her out while she screamed that everyone was overreacting and that I was a boring bridezilla. I didn't even see her again that night. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of messages from friends and family. Lily had posted a series of Instagram stories about the wedding, calling it the most uptight event ever, and saying Ethan gives controlling husband energy. She even uploaded a clip of her ruining our first dance with the caption, "You're welcome for saving this snooze fest." I was mortified. I blocked her on everything and told my mom I didn't want to speak to her. Lily tried to apologize via text weeks later, saying she'd been going through stuff and that I should understand because family forgives family. I didn't respond. Fast forward to now. She got evicted again and called asking if she could move back in just for a month. I said absolutely not. She started crying, saying she had nowhere to go and that I was heartless. My mom called too, saying I should be the bigger person and help my sister out because she's struggling. But I can't do it. I can't live with someone who disrespected me like that and never took real accountability. Ethan told me he'll support whatever I decide, but admitted he'll be extremely uncomfortable if she moves in again. Now my mom and some relatives are saying I'm being cruel, that family doesn't turn their back on each other. My dad, who wasn't at the wedding, says I'm absolutely right to say no. I've gone back and forth about it, wondering if maybe I'm being too harsh. Lily's life is a mess, and I do feel bad for her. But part of me thinks she's only sorry because she needs something from me again. Every apology she's ever given has come right before she wanted a favor. She keeps texting me things like, "I know I messed up, but you're my only family, and you'll regret abandoning me when I'm gone." I've had to block her again because it's giving me anxiety just seeing her name pop up. My mom keeps trying to guilt trip me, saying, "What if something happens to her?" And I just don't know how to explain that I'm exhausted. I've spent years cleaning up her messes and forgiving things that would have ended most relationships. But this time feels different. This time, she didn't just hurt me. She humiliated me publicly on one of the most important days of my life. Still, part of me can't stop wondering if maybe I'm letting anger outweigh compassion. Maybe I should let her stay just for a week, help her get back on her feet, and then set a firm deadline. But another part of me fears she'll never actually leave. So, Reddit-style verdict time. Am I the asshole for refusing to let my sister move back in after she destroyed my wedding and embarrassed me in front of everyone I love? AITA for telling my sister-in-law she can't bring her entire extended family to our wedding? So, this is going to be a long one, but bear with me because I think the whole situation is a mess and I genuinely want to know if I'm the asshole here. I, 29F, am engaged to my fiancé, 30M, let's call him Jake. We've been together for about 5 years now, and we're finally planning our wedding. We both come from fairly large families, but we're trying to keep the wedding relatively small and intimate because, honestly, weddings stress us out, and we don't want to deal with 1 million people or a huge venue. We're aiming for about 70 to 80 guests, mostly close family and our closest friends. Here's where it gets tricky. Jake has a sister, Amy, 32F, who is married with 2 kids. Amy's husband's family is large, to say the least. Like huge extended family with cousins, second cousins, and friends who they consider family. Amy's husband has basically grown up with this massive clan that is very close-knit, and they're all super involved in each other's lives. When Jake and I first announced our engagement, Amy was super excited and supportive, but it didn't take long before the conversations turned to the wedding guest list. We told Amy that we had to keep the guest list small, and while of course she and her immediate family were invited, we couldn't accommodate a huge group from her husband's side. Amy got really defensive and told us that it wouldn't be fair to exclude her husband's family, especially since they've always been included in every other family event. She even said that if we didn't invite all of them, she might not come at all. This felt like a weird ultimatum to me because it's our wedding and we should be able to decide who is invited. We tried explaining that it's not personal, but more about budget and space. We have a venue that only holds about 80 people, and with our own families and close friends, there isn't room for everyone. Amy responded by saying it's not just about the venue, but about respect and family loyalty. After a lot of back and forth, Jake and I made a list of everyone we wanted to invite, and we sent out invitations accordingly. Amy was unhappy that many of her husband's relatives weren't on the list and brought it up to Jake multiple times, saying it was unfair and that we were excluding them. Fast forward to the day before the wedding. Amy calls Jake and me to say that she's bringing 3 of her husband's cousins anyway, even though they weren't invited. She said she had told them about the wedding, and they were traveling from out of state, so they should be allowed to come. She insisted that it was her day too, and she wanted to celebrate with everyone she cared about. Jake and I were blindsided. We told her firmly that this wasn't okay and that we had to stick to the guest list. Amy got upset and said we were being unreasonable and selfish. On the day of the wedding, Amy showed up with the cousins she invited plus a few other relatives from her husband's side that weren't invited either. The venue was crowded, and the extra people caused a bunch of chaos with seating and catering. Our families noticed and were confused. Some people even had to sit on the floor or stand during the ceremony. The venue staff came to talk to us about the unexpected guests. Jake had to step in and explain, which was humiliating. After the ceremony, Amy confronted me privately, saying that I had ruined the wedding and that she felt like a second-class citizen in the family. She accused me of being controlling and petty. Jake was also upset because he felt caught in the middle, but he understood why we had to keep the wedding small. I told Amy that it wasn't about excluding anyone personally, just logistics and budget constraints, but she didn't seem to accept that. Now, the rest of the family is divided. Some think Amy was justified, and that Jake and I were being too strict and not inclusive enough. Others say Amy was out of line for disrespecting our wishes and gate-crashing our wedding. I'm honestly feeling really hurt because I worked so hard to plan this day and include the people who matter most to us. I never imagined this would turn into a family drama. My relationship with Amy is strained now, and I don't know how to move forward. So Reddit, AITA for telling my sister-in-law she can't bring her entire extended family to our wedding. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in after she blew up my wedding to save me from my husband. So this all started about a year ago, but the fallout is still very much alive and ruining family gatherings. I, 29F, got married to my husband, Jake, 31M, last summer after dating for almost 5 years. We met at work, moved in together after 2, and by all accounts, we're pretty boring and stable people. The issue in this story is my older sister, Emma, 33F, who's always been intense. Growing up, she was the protector. If I got in trouble, she'd step in. If I liked a guy, she'd warn me that he wasn't good enough. If I made a decision she didn't approve of, she'd go nuclear. When I got engaged to Jake, she acted supportive at first. She helped with decorations, came to fittings, and even cried when I asked her to be maid of honor. But as the wedding got closer, she started acting weird. She'd make subtle comments like, "You sure you know who he really is?" Or, "I don't think you've seen the side of him that everyone hides until after marriage." She'd say it with a laugh, like a joke, but I could tell she meant it. I confronted her once about it, and she said she'd just heard things about Jake. When I pressed for details, she said, "It's not my place to tell you, but you should dig deeper." I assumed it was just her being dramatic and brushed it off. Fast forward to the wedding day. Everything was going smoothly until the officiant asked if anyone objected. I know that moment is mostly symbolic, but right on cue, Emma stood up, loudly. She said, "I object because my sister doesn't know what she's getting into. Jake is a liar and a cheater." The entire room froze. My heart dropped. Jake looked like he'd been punched. My mom shouted her name. She kept going, yelling about how she'd seen messages from Jake to another woman, how she couldn't let me make the biggest mistake of my life. I demanded she show me the proof right there. She pulled out her phone, and what she showed were screenshots of texts that didn't even have Jake's number, just unknown. The messages were flirtatious, sure, but they didn't prove anything. I recognized the screenshots. They were from months before, from a random number that had messaged Jake on Instagram. He'd shown me them himself, and even reported the account. I told her she was wrong and to sit down, but she refused, saying I was in denial. The officiant eventually paused the ceremony until she was escorted out by Jake's brother. The damage was done, though. Half the guests were whispering. My dad looked like he wanted to crawl under a table, and my mom was crying. We finished the ceremony, but it felt hollow. Emma left before the reception even started, and I spent half the night trying to hold back tears while pretending everything was fine. Afterward, I didn't speak to her for months. My parents begged me to be the bigger person and forgive her because she thought she was protecting me. I refused. She ruined what was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life because she couldn't control herself. Then, earlier this year, Emma's long-term boyfriend broke up with her and she lost her apartment. My parents called and asked if she could stay with me and Jay for a few weeks until she found something new. I said absolutely not. My mom cried. My dad called me heartless, and Emma herself sent me a long message saying she regretted how things went down, but that she still believed she did the right thing. I told her that if she really believed that, then she didn't regret it, and I wasn't going to let someone who tried to destroy my marriage live in my house. Now it's become this huge family divide. My parents think I'm cruel for holding a grudge and letting her be homeless. But Emma isn't actually homeless. She's staying with a friend and working. She just doesn't like that it's a smaller apartment and that she can't bring her dog. My mom keeps guilt-tripping me, saying family forgives family, and that Emma was acting out of love. I said love doesn't involve public humiliation and slander on my wedding day. My dad keeps reminding me that Emma was the one who always protected you growing up. Yeah, well, I don't need protecting from my own husband. Jake doesn't want her anywhere near our house. He's been patient about the whole thing, but even he's reached his limit. He told me that if I let her move in, he'd move out until she was gone. I don't blame him. He's been nothing but good to me, and he didn't deserve what she did. The last straw came last week when Emma showed up at my work unannounced. She was crying, saying she can't believe I've turned into someone who abandons her own sister. I told her that I loved her once, but she crossed a line she can't uncross. She screamed at me in the parking lot that Jake got in my head and that one day I'll see she was right. My coworkers saw the whole thing. It was humiliating. That night, I blocked her number. My parents haven't stopped calling me since. My mom left a voicemail saying that Emma might never forgive me for giving up on her, as if that's supposed to scare me into changing my mind. I don't know. Part of me wonders if I should have just let her stay for the sake of peace, but another part of me thinks that's exactly why she keeps doing this, because people let her get away with everything in the name of family. She didn't just ruin my wedding. She tried to convince everyone my husband was a liar. She made me a spectacle in front of everyone I love. And now she wants to move into the home I've built with the same man she publicly accused of cheating. Every time I think about that moment, standing there in my dress, with everyone staring while she shouted that I was making a mistake, I feel that same gut punch all over again. It's not something I can just forget. So now the family's split. Half think I'm being stubborn and vindictive. The other half think Emma finally needs to face consequences. My mom told me she's not inviting us to Christmas this year because she can't handle the tension. Honestly, I am relieved. Still, I can't help but wonder if I'm the one being too harsh. She's my sister, and I know she probably thought she was doing the right thing in her twisted way. But how do you forgive someone who doesn't even think they did something wrong? AITA for refusing to let her move in? AITA for refusing to give up my late sister's wedding dress to her daughter, even though it technically belongs to her now. So some background. I, 32F, was extremely close to my older sister, Lily. She was 7 years older than me and basically my second mom growing up. Our mom passed away when I was 10, and Lily stepped up in every way possible. She helped raise me, paid for part of my college, and was the person who always made me feel safe. She married her high school sweetheart, Aaron, when I was 19. Their wedding was this beautiful backyard ceremony, small, intimate, full of homemade touches because they didn't have much money at the time. Lily designed her own wedding dress with the help of a local seamstress. It wasn't expensive, but it was absolutely stunning. It had these delicate lace sleeves and a slightly vintage silhouette. When I saw her walk down the aisle in it, I remember thinking it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Tragically, Lily passed away 4 years after her wedding due to a drunk driver. She left behind her husband, Aaron, and their baby daughter, Mia, who was only 1 at the time. After her death, Aaron was understandably devastated. Our family rallied around him and Mia. For years, I was very involved in Mia's life. I babysat, helped with school projects, attended birthdays, all of it. When we were cleaning out Lily's things after the funeral, Aaron told me to take whatever I wanted as keepsakes because he said it was too painful for him to sort through. I asked specifically about the wedding dress, and he said, "Take it. I don't think I can ever look at it again." So I did. I kept it preserved in a garment bag in my house. It's been with me for over a decade now. Fast forward to now. Mia is 17 and planning a mock wedding event at her high school for their senior project, something where students design and stage an entire wedding as part of a business and event management class. She called me a few weeks ago, saying she wanted to wear her mom's wedding dress for it. I was touched at first, but also conflicted. I asked her how she even knew I had it, and she said Aaron told her. Here's where things get messy. I told her I wasn't sure it was a good idea because the dress is delicate and has huge sentimental value to me. I said I'd be worried about it getting damaged or stained during the event. She said she'd be super careful and it would mean a lot to her to wear something that belonged to her mom. I hesitated, but told her I needed time to think about it. Then Aaron called me a few days later, clearly annoyed. He said that it wasn't really my decision because technically the dress belonged to Lily, and by extension, it's Mia's now. He accused me of being possessive and weird about something that should be passed down to her daughter. I told him I didn't agree. He gave me the dress over 10 years ago, told me to keep it, and never mentioned that it was temporary. It's not like I stole it or refused to let him have it. I also said I wasn't opposed to giving it to Mia when she's older, like for her actual wedding, but I didn't think a high school project was an appropriate occasion. I even offered to have a replica made using similar fabric or to let her borrow some jewelry or other keepsakes of Lily's for the event. Aaron said I was being controlling and acting like Lily's memory belonged only to me. He said it's wrong to gatekeep her belongings from her own daughter. That stung because I've done everything I could over the years to keep Lily's memory alive for Mia. I've told her stories, shared pictures, and even given her little things that belonged to Lily, like her favorite book and a necklace she used to wear. Still, I stood my ground. I told him the dress is fragile, and I don't trust that a bunch of high schoolers doing a mock wedding are going to handle it with the care it deserves. He told me I'm making it about myself instead of honoring Lily's memory through her daughter. Since then, things have gotten tense. Mia texted me saying she's disappointed and that she feels like I don't trust her. I tried explaining that it's not about trust, it's about preserving something precious that can't be replaced. But she hasn't responded. Aaron hasn't spoken to me either, and my dad thinks I should just let it go and give Mia the dress, saying it's what Lily would have wanted. The thing is, I don't actually know if that's true. Lily and I talked about her wedding dress once. She said she wanted me to have it because she knew I'd take care of it. She said she liked the idea that I might wear it someday. I never got married, but I kept it safe because it was one of the last things I had of hers that still felt alive with her presence. Now I'm starting to feel guilty. Maybe I'm being too sentimental, or maybe I'm just afraid of letting go of something that makes me feel close to her. But part of me also feels like if I just hand it over, it'll get damaged or forgotten after the project, and I'll regret it forever. My boyfriend thinks I'm justified, that it's my keepsake, and that it's not wrong to set boundaries. But my dad and Aaron both think I'm being selfish and insensitive to Mia's feelings. So now I'm stuck between wanting to protect something deeply meaningful to me and not wanting to be seen as the bitter aunt who won't let her niece connect with her late mom. AITA for refusing to give up the dress right now. AITA for refusing to take my sister's kids after she passed away, even though I technically have the space and money. This is one of those situations where everyone around me seems to think I'm heartless, but I don't think they actually understand what they're asking of me. I, 33F, have one daughter, Nora, who's 8. My sister, Melissa, 36F, passed away 3 months ago from complications after surgery. She left behind 2 kids, Tyler, 10, and Emma, 6. Their dad, Jake, has been out of the picture for years. He left after Emma was born and never paid support. He's basically untraceable. Melissa was a single mom, worked constantly, and lived about 2 hours from me. Here's where I come in. When Melissa passed, my parents assumed I'd take the kids. I live in a 4-bedroom house with my husband, Daniel, 35M, and Nora. We're not rich, but we're comfortable. I work remotely as a data analyst, and Daniel's an HVAC tech with a solid income. On paper, I guess it looks like I could take in 2 kids without it completely breaking us. But emotionally, mentally, that's another story. Melissa and I weren't close. She was always the golden child, and I was the responsible one. Growing up, I took on a caretaker role. She made a mess, I cleaned it up. She got into trouble. I was the one who talked our parents down. Even in adulthood, she leaned on me constantly. I helped her move 3 times, babysat her kids multiple weekends, and lent her money more times than I can count. But the emotional labor was the worst part. She'd call me crying about her ex, her job, her landlord, and I'd talk her down every single time. When she died, I felt grief, of course, but also this crushing sense of guilt because part of me felt relieved. Relieved that I wouldn't have to keep fixing things. I hate admitting that. So when the conversation about guardianship came up, my parents immediately said, "Well, of course, you'll take them. You're the stable one." There was no question in their tone, no pause to even ask if I wanted to. I told them I needed time to think. My mom started crying, saying the kids had already lost so much and that I was their only real chance at a normal life. My dad said I'd regret it forever if I didn't step up. Daniel, to his credit, told me he'd support whatever I decided, but admitted privately that he wasn't sure we could handle it. We already struggle with balancing work and parenting. Nora has ADHD and needs a lot of attention and structure, and Daniel works long hours. It's not easy. I asked what other options existed. Apparently, my parents can't take them full-time because of health issues, and no other family members are close. Melissa's best friend, Amy, offered to help if needed, but she has 4 kids of her own and works part-time. So basically, it's me or foster care. I spent weeks going back and forth. I met with a social worker who explained what the process would look like if I declined guardianship. The kids would be placed with a temporary foster family until a more permanent home could be arranged, possibly even adopted if I didn't step in. That broke my heart. Tyler and Emma are sweet kids. They didn't do anything wrong. But I also couldn't ignore that taking them would completely change everything for my family. Nora overheard part of the conversation one night and asked if we were getting new kids. When I told her maybe, she started crying and said she didn't want to share mommy and daddy. That gutted me. She's already struggling with attention and emotional regulation. I worried adding 2 grieving children to the mix would send everything spiraling. I finally told my parents that after talking with Daniel and a counselor, I didn't feel capable of being the kid's guardian. My mom screamed at me. My dad called me cold and said Melissa would be ashamed. My aunt said she always knew I was selfish. They basically cut contact since. Even Amy, the friend, sent me a message saying she couldn't believe I'd abandoned my niece and nephew. The kids were placed with a foster family last month. The social worker said the couple is older, stable, and very sweet. She even said Tyler seems to be opening up more there than he did during the short time he stayed with my parents. But I can't shake the guilt. Nora keeps asking if her cousins are mad at her, and my parents keep posting these passive-aggressive things on Facebook about family stepping up when it matters. I've thought about offering to take them in temporarily, but I know that would just make it harder when they'd have to move again. It feels like any choice I make hurts someone. My therapist says it's okay to have boundaries, that I'm not obligated to sacrifice my own family stability to fix what Melissa left behind. But every night, I still picture those kids and wonder if I failed them. The worst part was when Tyler called me last week. He said he liked his new foster mom because she listens better than Aunt Liz. That stung, but I also felt weirdly relieved, like maybe he's in a better place than I could have given him. My parents found out about the call and texted me saying I don't deserve to talk to them anymore. I know grief makes people lash out, but I feel like I'm being punished for not being a martyr. My husband says people are acting out of emotion and that, in time, they'll calm down, but I'm not sure. I think they'll never look at me the same way again. So now I'm just sitting here, wondering if maybe everyone's right. Maybe I'm heartless. Maybe the fact that I wanted to protect my own child and my mental health makes me selfish. I keep thinking of that day in the hospital when I held Melissa's hand before they took her to surgery. She made me promise to look after the kids. I told her I would. I didn't know she'd never wake up. And that's the part that really breaks me, because I did mean it in that moment. I just didn't understand what looking after would actually mean when it became real. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to take in my sister's kids after she died, even though I could technically afford it, and everyone says I should have. AITA for telling my brother's fiancée she's not the center of the universe and refusing to change my wedding date for her. So I, 29F, am getting married next spring to my fiancé, Evan, 31M. We've been together for 6 years, engaged for 2, and our wedding date has been set for almost a year now. Venue booked, deposits paid, invitations designed, everything. It's important to note that the date we picked has sentimental meaning for us. It's the anniversary of the day we first met at a friend's barbecue. It's also the only weekend next spring that worked with both our families' travel schedules. Now, enter my brother, Jake, 33M, and his fiancée, Amber, 27F. They got engaged about 6 months ago. I'll be honest, Amber and I don't exactly click. She's one of those people who manages to make everything about herself, often in ways that leave you wondering if she's being deliberately self-centered or just oblivious. She's loud, she interrupts constantly, and she has this habit of correcting people on topics she clearly doesn't understand. Still, I've tried to be polite for my brother's sake. About 2 months ago, Jake and Amber announced that they'd chosen their wedding date. You can guess where this is going. They picked the exact same weekend as ours. When my mom pointed it out to them, Jake said, "Oh, well, we can't help it." That's when our venue was available. Amber added that it was fate because it's around the time they first said, "I love you." My mom gently suggested they consider another date, since my wedding was planned first, but Amber said, "It's a big world. There's enough room for 2 weddings." The thing is, our family isn't that big. Most of the same people would be invited to both weddings, and we live in the same state, just 3 hours apart. Having 2 weddings on the same weekend would mean splitting guests, travel chaos, and basically forcing people to choose sides. I tried to talk to my brother privately, explaining that we had our date locked in and changing it would cost us thousands and ruin the sentimental meaning. He said he understood, but claimed Amber was really attached to their date and that she's already told people. For a while, I decided to ignore it, assuming they'd eventually realize how inconvenient it was. But last month, Amber called me directly. She started off by saying she didn't want to step on my toes, but that it would mean so much if I could move my wedding to another weekend because people might be too tired to attend both and she didn't want any competition for attention. She actually said that. Competition for attention. I told her, calmly at first, that our date wasn't up for debate. We'd booked everything, deposits were paid, and it was meaningful to us. She then started crying and said I was trying to ruin her dream wedding and making her look like the copycat. I reminded her that we picked first and that if anyone looked like they were copying, it wasn't me. That's when she got nasty. She said I was older and should be more mature, that Evan and I had our turn already, and that it was selfish of me not to compromise. That's when I snapped. I told her she wasn't the center of the universe, that no one else should have to rearrange their lives because she wanted to feel special for a weekend. I told her that her entitlement was exhausting and that she needed to learn the world didn't revolve around her wedding plans. She hung up on me, sobbing dramatically. Within an hour, my brother called, furious. He said I'd humiliated Amber and that I needed to apologize. I told him I'd apologize when she apologized for asking me to move my wedding and calling me selfish. He said I was being rigid and unsupportive. When I reminded him that changing our date would cost us several $1,000s, he said, if it's really about the money, I'll cover it. I said, it's not about money, it's about principle. Now my family is divided. My mom and dad are on my side. They think Jake and Amber are being unreasonable. My mom even said, if they can't find another date, that's on them. But my aunt and cousins think I'm being stubborn and that weddings are about family harmony. My dad's brother even called to say, it's just a date. Honey, you can pick another. The thing is, if I change it, Amber gets exactly what she wants. She's already bragging on social media that everything's aligning perfectly for their wedding. To make things worse, Amber posted something vague online about some people trying to dim your shine because they can't handle seeing you happy. Her friends flooded the comments with hearts and ignore the haters' messages. It's petty, but it still stung. Last weekend, we had a family dinner to talk it through. Amber showed up wearing a white dress to a family dinner, mind you, and spent most of the evening crying softly in her napkin while Jake kept glaring at me. My mom tried to change the subject multiple times, but Amber would pipe up with things like, I just don't understand why some people can't compromise for love. At one point, she said, you already have your guy. Why can't you let someone else have their moment? I told her, as calmly as I could, that I wasn't taking anything away from her. She's free to have her wedding whenever she wants, but not to expect everyone else to bend over backwards for her convenience. Jake accused me of being cold and jealous, which made Evan finally speak up. He said, we've been engaged longer, planned longer, paid longer. If anyone's copying anyone, it's not us. The table went silent after that. Now Jake isn't speaking to me. Amber blocked me on everything, and my aunt says I've wrecked the family dynamic. My parents are standing firm that they'll attend our wedding no matter what, but my brother said if I don't fix this, they might elope instead. Honestly, I don't even care at this point, but there's this small part of me that wonders if I could have handled it better. Maybe I could have been more diplomatic instead of calling her out so harshly. Still, every time I think about it, I get angry all over again. I'm tired of her dramatics, the manipulation, and the expectation that everyone orbit around her whims. But now, with the family pressure and the fallout, I can't tell if I'm really in the wrong or if I just finally stood my ground for once. So, Reddit, AITA for telling my brother's fiancée she's not the center of the universe and refusing to change my wedding date for her. AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding because I'm tired of always being the family fixer and getting taken advantage of. I'm 29F, the middle child of 3 siblings. My older sister, 33F, and younger brother, 25M, have always been close to each other, but I've kind of been the wild card or the fixer in the family. Growing up, I was the one who stepped in when my parents had arguments or when one sibling needed help with school or personal stuff. I'm naturally pretty empathetic and a problem solver, so I've always taken on a lot of emotional labor for my family without really complaining. I live about an hour away from them in a different city, and I work in a pretty demanding job. I'm not rich by any means, but I make enough to be comfortable. My older sister, let's call her Rachel, is getting married next summer, and honestly, I'm feeling exhausted just thinking about it. Rachel and I have always had a complicated relationship. She's always been the golden child in our parents' eyes, smart, organized, outgoing. I'm more introverted, and I've always felt like I had to prove myself or be the peacemaker to keep things smooth. Over the years, I've helped her with everything from school projects to moving apartments, and most recently, when she was going through a messy breakup a couple of years ago, I was the one who helped her emotionally and even financially. The problem is, I feel like the favor was never really returned. When I went through a tough time in my mid-20s, I was laid off and had some health problems. Rachel was distant and unavailable. She had her own life and didn't make much effort to check in on me. I let it slide because family, right? But that pattern has stuck with me, and I'm starting to realize how much emotional energy I've spent on her while getting little in return. Now, Rachel's wedding plans are in full swing. She's been stressed and a little overwhelmed, which I get. Planning a wedding is hard. But the way she's been delegating tasks and asking for help has been driving me nuts. She expects me to do a lot of stuff, helping coordinate with vendors, planning the rehearsal dinner, designing invitations, and even managing some family drama with our parents and younger brother. I've told her multiple times that I'm happy to help where I can, but I'm also working full-time and have my own life to manage. I'm not a wedding planner, and frankly, I don't want to take on the bulk of the work. She keeps brushing me off or making it sound like I'm being selfish or not supportive enough. The breaking point was last week when she asked me to take a whole weekend off work to help set up the venue and run errands. I told her no, I can't afford to take that much time off, and I'm already helping in other ways. She got really upset and said I was being selfish and not family-oriented. She even accused me of not caring about her happiness. I tried explaining my side, that I feel like I've been the family fixer for years, that I'm not a free resource, and that I have my own limits. But she wouldn't hear it. Our parents are also kind of on her side, which makes me feel isolated. Now, the family is divided. Some say I should just suck it up and help because it's my sister's big day, while others understand that I'm setting boundaries. I don't want to cause a huge rift, but I also don't want to be taken advantage of anymore. So, AITA for refusing to take on a bunch of wedding planning tasks and saying no to helping my sister with her wedding weekend logistics? Should I just push through and do it even if it drains me? Or am I justified in standing my ground? AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay in my house after he wrecked my car and then demanding I pay for his medical bills? This has been an incredibly stressful and emotional situation, and I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong here or if my sister and her boyfriend are just being unreasonable. I'm hoping to get some outside perspective on this because it's tearing my family apart. I, 28M, have a younger sister, Lisa, 24F, who's been dating this guy, Mark, 26M, for about 6 months. I'll be honest, I wasn't thrilled about Mark from the start. He seemed a little sketchy, always asking to borrow money, had a history of minor run-ins with the law, and wasn't very responsible. Lisa, however, was smitten and said she was happy, so I tried to keep my distance and not interfere. I live alone in a decent-sized apartment in a city about 2 hours away from where my family lives. I have a steady job and pride myself on being responsible and organized. I'm also very protective of my things, including my car, which I bought after years of saving. 2 weeks ago, Lisa called me in a panic. Mark had been involved in a minor car accident, and his car was totaled. Apparently, he asked Lisa to come pick him up because he couldn't drive his car. Lisa suggested I come get him because I was the only one with a reliable car nearby. Despite my reservations, I agreed to help and drove to pick up Mark. When I got there, I noticed that Mark's behavior was off. He seemed groggy and admitted he'd taken some painkillers and had a few drinks earlier that day. I was uncomfortable, but didn't want to escalate the situation, so I agreed to drive him back to Lisa's place. On the way back, Mark insisted on driving my car instead of me, claiming he felt better and wanted to handle it. I hesitated, but finally let him, figuring maybe he'd just calm down behind the wheel. About 10 minutes later, he crashed my car into a guardrail. I was shaken, but thankfully unhurt. Mark was more concerned about himself than the damage to my car. He started demanding I take him to the hospital because he said he was in pain. I called an ambulance instead, and he was admitted for a minor concussion and some bruising. Here's where things get complicated. Mark's hospital bills started piling up quickly. Lisa and Mark immediately turned to me, saying since I was the one who put him in the car and was technically responsible for the accident, I should cover the medical expenses. I told them I wasn't financially responsible for a car crash caused by Mark's reckless driving, especially since he was under the influence. Things escalated when Lisa told me Mark wanted to stay at my apartment while he recovered because it was closer to his job and more comfortable. I refused, saying it was too stressful and inappropriate given everything that had happened. I also told Lisa I expected Mark to pay for the damages to my car or at least contribute to the repairs. Lisa blew up, accusing me of being cold and unsupportive of her boyfriend, especially since he was hurt. Mark messaged me directly, telling me I was a terrible person and that family should stick together. My parents even got involved, asking me to do the right thing and help Mark out. I stood firm. I did not cause the accident. I didn't force Mark to drive my car, and I certainly shouldn't be responsible for his medical bills or have him live with me. I offered to help Lisa in other ways, like taking her out for dinner or helping with errands, but I refused to take on this burden. My sister and Mark stopped speaking to me altogether. Our parents are upset with me, and I'm now worried this might permanently damage our relationship. So, AITA for refusing to let Mark stay with me and not paying his medical bills after he wrecked my car. AITA for refusing to invite my sister to my wedding because she constantly disrespects my fiancé and me. This story is a long one, so please bear with me. It all started about 2 years ago when my fiancé, Jake, and I got engaged. We've been together for 5 years, and things have been mostly great, except for one major thorn in the side, my sister, Emily. Our relationship has been strained for a long time, but the tension escalated after Jake and I got engaged. Emily has always been a bit of a wild card. We grew up in a small town, and she was always the more rebellious one. I was the good girl, the one who followed the rules, and Emily often teased me for being boring. Over the years, though, we mostly got along. She lives a few states away now, and we talk occasionally. But from the moment I told her about my engagement, things took a strange turn. To give some context, Jake is a great guy, kind, funny, and extremely supportive. He comes from a modest background, and I come from a family that's a little more traditional and well-off. I knew Emily was skeptical about him from the beginning, probably because he's not from the same social circle and doesn't have the same kind of job or lifestyle she expected I'd end up with. But I never thought that would lead to what happened next. Shortly after the engagement announcement, Emily started making snide remarks, sometimes in person, but more often on social media. She'd make passive-aggressive comments about Jake's job or his family. For example, she once posted a photo of a fancy wedding venue with a caption like, "Hope some people can keep up," which was clearly aimed at us since we were planning a smaller, more intimate wedding in a modest location. Whenever I confronted her, she denied it or acted like I was being too sensitive. It hurt a lot, but I tried to brush it off because I didn't want to ruin my relationship with her. I figured the wedding would bring us together, or at least she'd come around. The breaking point came when she met Jake in person for the first time at a family dinner. She was cold to him from the start, barely spoke, avoided eye contact, and then, during the meal, she loudly questioned how he could afford to support me and insinuated he was taking advantage of me because he didn't have a college degree. It was humiliating. Jake didn't say much, but you could tell he was hurt. After that, I made it clear to Emily that this behavior was unacceptable. I told her she needed to respect Jake or at least act civilly if she wanted to be part of our lives. She apologized half-heartedly, but continued with the snide remarks and passive-aggressive behavior, just less openly. As the wedding plans progressed, I realized I had to make a tough decision. Emily kept sending me messages about how the wedding should be bigger and better, how Jake doesn't fit, and even implied that I was making a mistake. It was stressful, and Jake and I discussed it at length. One day, Emily sent me a long text listing all the reasons she thought Jake was wrong for me, which felt more like a personal attack than anything else. I told her that if she couldn't respect us, she wouldn't be invited to the wedding. She blew up, calling me controlling and saying I was cutting family out for no reason. Despite feeling torn, I stood firm. I explained that a wedding is a celebration of love and unity, and I wouldn't let anyone make it miserable for us. My parents sided with me, saying they wanted a peaceful day and didn't want drama. The day the invitations went out, Emily messaged me, asking if she'd gotten one. I told her no, that I couldn't invite someone who was going to disrespect Jake and me on our special day. She responded with anger, saying I was selfish and that she was done with the family. Now, a few weeks away from the wedding, my family is divided. Some say I'm right to protect my relationship, while others think I'm overreacting and cutting my sister out unnecessarily. My fiancé supports me completely and is grateful I'm standing up for us. So, Reddit, AITA for not inviting my sister to my wedding because of how she treats me and my fiancé? Or should I have tried harder to keep the peace and included her despite the drama? AITA for telling my sister I won't pay for her wedding anymore after she called my fiancé a placeholder? I, 33M, have one sibling, my sister Erica, 29F. We grew up really close because our mom raised us alone after our dad left when I was 10. I've always felt responsible for Erica, especially after Mom got sick in our teens. When Mom passed away 5 years ago, I promised her I'd always take care of Erica. Erica has always been the golden child. She's beautiful, charming, and a little dramatic. She's one of those people who can make a small problem feel like the end of the world, and then somehow, everyone rushes to fix it for her. I used to think that was just her being passionate. Now I think she's just manipulative. When Erica got engaged to her fiancé, Matt, 31M, about 8 months ago, everyone was thrilled. They'd been together for 3 years, and Matt seemed like a decent guy. The problem started when Erica decided she wanted a dream wedding. She didn't have the money for it, but she insisted that she deserved it after everything she's been through. I was doing well financially. I work in tech and had some savings, so I offered to help. I didn't plan on paying for the entire wedding, but Erica started treating it like I had. She'd send me links to venues, florists, and dresses, and just assume I'd cover it. I kept asking for a budget, and she kept saying, "We'll figure it out." Then there's my fiancée, Chloe, 32F. We've been together for 5 years, engaged for 1. She's thoughtful, kind, and the most patient person I know. Chloe and Erica have never really clicked, though. Erica says Chloe is too quiet and not warm enough, which basically means Chloe doesn't fawn over her. Still, Chloe has gone out of her way to be kind, helping Erica with decorations, giving her design ideas, even offering to do her makeup on the wedding day for free. Chloe's a professional makeup artist. 2 weeks ago, everything blew up. Erica had planned a big dinner at my place to finalize wedding details. It was me, Chloe, her fiancé Matt, and our cousin Jake. Things were fine at first. Erica was showing us her Pinterest boards and talking about how she wanted a live band, a champagne tower, and a designer gown that cost more than some cars. I tried to bring the conversation back to money because I could feel Chloe tensing up next to me. I asked, "So, do you have a total budget yet? I really need to know what I'm covering before we commit to deposits." Erica rolled her eyes and said, "Oh my God, you sound like Dad. It's not about the money, it's about the vibe. You make six figures, don't act like this is a big deal." Chloe quietly said, "It's still important to know, though. Weddings get expensive fast." Erica sighed and said, "See, this is what I mean, Chloe. You always think so small. Some people just want something beautiful." Chloe just nodded and stayed quiet, but I could tell she was hurt. Then Jake, trying to lighten the mood, said something like, "Well, maybe you and Chloe will get ideas for your wedding too." Erica laughed and said, "Oh, please, their wedding is going to be like a backyard barbecue or something." Chloe doesn't exactly scream luxury bride. The room went dead silent. Chloe looked down, and I felt my blood boil. I said, "Erica, that's not funny." She waved her hand. "Relax. It's a joke." Chloe excused herself to the bathroom. I followed her a few minutes later, and she was crying. She said she didn't want to cause a scene, so she just wanted to leave. When I came back to the table, I told Erica we were leaving and that her comment was completely out of line. She rolled her eyes again and said, "You're really going to make a big deal out of that? She's kind of basic, but it's fine. You'll probably upgrade later anyway." I asked her what she meant, and she smirked and said, "Come on, we all know Chloe's just a placeholder. You're still young and successful. You'll find someone who matches your level eventually." I lost it. I told her she was disgusting for talking about my fiancé like that, and that I was done funding her wedding. Erica started crying and yelling that I was ruining her life, that she couldn't afford to pay for everything herself, and that Mom would be ashamed of me for abandoning her. Matt tried to calm her down, but then turned on me, saying I could have handled it privately, and that Erica was just stressed. I told him if he was so understanding, maybe he should pay for her vibe. We left, and I haven't spoken to her since. Now my phone is blowing up with family messages. My aunt says I overreacted and that Erica didn't mean it. My uncle says he understands, but that family comes first. Even Jake texted me saying he felt bad for Erica because she's always been dramatic, but you know how she is. Chloe doesn't want me to apologize, but I can tell she's hurt that people are defending Erica. She told me she'd support whatever I decided, but that she doesn't want to attend the wedding anymore. I feel torn. On one hand, I know Erica was cruel and entitled, and I don't want to reward that behavior. On the other, I made a promise to Mom, and I know Erica doesn't have much support otherwise. But how far do family obligations go when someone keeps crossing the line? My dad even called me yesterday, someone I haven't spoken to in years, and said Erica reached out to him crying. He told me I should be the bigger person and not let money ruin family bonds. That one really stung because I'm not sure what's left of that bond after what she said about Chloe. Part of me wonders if Erica really believes what she said, that Chloe isn't good enough for me. Erica's always had this weird idea that I need to marry up because I worked so hard to get where I am. But Chloe was with me long before I had a nice apartment or a stable career. She's my equal in every way that actually matters. I keep replaying it in my head, trying to figure out if I should have handled it differently. Maybe I could have just refused to talk about the wedding until she apologized, or quietly withdrawn my financial help without making a scene. But at the same time, she humiliated Chloe in my own home. Now the entire family is split. Some people are saying I'm punishing Erica for being immature. Others say I finally stood up to her after years of enabling. I don't know anymore. Was I the asshole for cutting her off so suddenly? Or was this just the last straw in a long line of her treating everyone like they exist to serve her? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.